तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनम् कविभिरीरितं कल्मषापहम् श्रवणमङ्गलम् श्रीमदाततम् भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जना. So today we are going to start a new chapter, the 10th chapter, the Master with the Brahmo devotees. Master's visit to the Brahmo festival, April 22, 1883. Sri Ramakrishna paid a visit to Beni Madhav Pal's garden house at Shithi, near Calcutta, on the occasion of the semi-annual festival of the Brahmo Samaj. Many devotees of the Samaj were present and sat around the master. Now and then some of them asked him questions. A Brahmo devotee: "Sir, what is the way?" Master: "Attachment to God, or in other words, love for Him. And secondly, prayer." Brahmo devotee: "Which one is the way, love or prayer?" Master: "First love and then prayer." The master sang, "Cry to your mother Shyama with a real cry, you mind, and how can she hold herself from you? How can Shyama stay away?" Continuing, the master said, "And one must always chant the name and glories of God and pray to Him. An old metal pot must be scrubbed every day. What is the use of cleaning it only once? Further, one must practice discrimination and renunciation. One must be conscious of the unreality of the world." So we find in these few words, Sri Ramakrishna is speaking of the entire gamut of the spiritual practice. The first, he is saying that love and prayer. And when was asked specifically, he says first love, then prayer. Because otherwise the prayer is something which becomes mechanical unless it is imbued with love. Now the question is that how that love is not something which I can force. If I don't feel devotion towards the divine, how to develop that love? So for that, again the master is saying that first you always chant the name and glories of God and pray to Him. So this chanting the name and glories of God is the way to develop devotion. Whether I have devotion or not, if I resort to some will, I just take a resolution that as per the instructions of my spiritual preceptor, my Guru, I will regularly repeat the name of the Lord, the mantra which He has given me. Now this willful repetition in specific times, in time, will develop into devotion. As in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, very nicely it has been mentioned, "Ei Horinam nite nite bhakti mukul fudbe chite." That go on taking the name of the Lord. So there is the potentiality of devotion in the heart of each and every one. It is in the form of a bud. That potentiality is in the form of a bud. Bhakti mukul. Mukul means bud. If you go on taking the name of Lord, in time, a time will come when that bud will bloom. And then that bud of devotion will bloom. You will find the presence of love in your heart. The love will grow more and more the more you take the name. Is it something just we are saying based on the instructions in the scripture? No. Even the modern psychology, we will find actually explains this fact that in this life, whatever love we have, all the loves are a type of obsession. How we have developed that love, that out of necessity, whatever we go on doing again and again, repetitively what I go on doing again and again, it as if creates a path in my mind. That example which we give again and again. Suppose there is a park where I go for a walk every day, and I take a particular path for my walk, and I will find that not only me, some others also take that same path. And what will happen? The grass will dry out and a path will be created. The mind is something like that. It is neuroplastic, that once a thought you resort to, it creates a path and it doesn't get dissolved. It stays there. And the more you repeat, the path becomes deeply grooved. And once the path is created, it is deeply grooved path is created. Now the nature of the mind is such, we forget the necessity. Just to do it repeatedly becomes our obsession. We like it. That's how all our liking has developed. You will find in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, again and again, Sri Ramakrishna repeatedly says, Kamini Kanchan Maya. We say, why he is stressing so much? You will find what he's saying is a basic thing, very basic thing, that life is not possible without lust and gold. I need gold for sustenance of my life and lust for this continuation of the life through the generations. So these two are the basic needs of life. Now from a single microbe to the human being, all are continuously, repeatedly resorting to this too, because that's the way of the nature. The nature can propagate only by that. And now you will find this necessity has become an obsession. You go to any news channel, any crime, at last you will find it boils down to this too, nothing else, either lust or wealth. So what has happened? The necessity has become obsession. I forget the necessity and it has become obsession. I have started liking it so much that it has created such a deep groove in my mind, and now the necessity is shadowed. Just to do it repeatedly has become my obsession. I like it, and that's how all the likings develop. Now by default, I find that the liking for all the worldly ways of life is there in my psyche. What's the way out? All the spiritual traditions. Many people say that the spiritual traditions have varied practice, varied beliefs. Is there any commonality? Is there something common there? One thing you will find common in all the religion, irrespective of the fact that the beliefs are different, the dogmas are different, the doctrines are different. But in practice, every religion you will find resort to repetition. Whether it is Christian, whether it is Islam, whether it is Hindu, you will find either to some prayer or some mantra, every day the same thing they will repeat. They have been instructed to do that. Whether they like it or not, with a resolution they do it. So why? You will find that again, knowingly or unknowingly, all the religious traditions are thus is resorting to that neuroplasticity. By repeatedly repeating the prayer or the mantra, whatever it may be, I am again resorting to that neuroplasticity of the mind. I am creating, I am wiring the mind. And gradually, even at the beginning, though I have no love for the divine, but by constant repetitions, willful repetitions, this will gradually gets converted into emotion and devotion. Because the same way, the mind gets obsessed. What you repeat, once the groove is created, it gets obsessed. So now you will find the devotion is growing for the name of the Lord. But this devotion is also not only something that as you take as you go on taking the name of the Lord, the groove becomes more deep and your devotion becomes more overwhelming. But a very interesting thing, we will find in our mind the love for the worldly things coexist. That if I today have the donut, that doesn't mean that after that tomorrow if I have a cheesecake, I will start disliking the donut. Both coexist. I like the donut as well as the cheesecake. But in the scriptures they say that once I develop the love for the divine, other loves cannot coexist with that. You may say, why? How? Because this love which you have developed by repeating the name of God is qualitatively different from all other love. How? Now all other obsessions was depending on something external to me. It was extraneous. Whether it is wealth, whether it is relation, whether it is position in life, accomplishment in life, it is all dependent on something external. And there is competition. There is a job in the market, hundreds are applying, and maybe only 10 vacancies are there. So, constantly we find it is external and there is no certainty that I am going to get it. So this is the nature of all worldly love, all the worldly love. But when I resort to this practice of taking the name of the Lord, and gradually by resorting to this repetition, I have developed love because of the same nature, same obsession. It is of the same obsession. But how it is qualitatively different? Because this thing which I have developed now is something intrinsic. It depends nothing on external. I just resort to the name of the Lord. Immediately I find the devotion is welling up. So what has happened? I have created a path in my mind which is just like a freeway. All other loves were like traveling through a road full of traffic. There are a lot of intersections, there are a lot of junctions, crossings. Why crossings and junctions? You will find that, as we were saying, that if I get my object of love, it is at the cost of someone else. Someone also is desiring, it doesn't get. It is just like going through the road. If I get the green signal, the other is bound to get the red signal. So it is a road full of traffic. When this worldly love is a road full of traffic. But this divine love, it is something very, very interesting. It is qualitatively different. As it is intrinsic, my love for God in no way is at the cost of others' love for God. That's why Sri Ramakrishna, when Holy Mother was quite young, and Sri Ramakrishna started instructing her about the love for God, he used to say in simple words, Chand Mama, Shokoler Mama. That the moon is the universal uncle. In Bengali they say, this is just a proverbial way of saying it. What's the idea? That the moon is uncle for all. So here God is something universal. The love for God is universal. That my love for God in no way hinders the love for God, love of God anyone else have for God. In no way it hinders, because it is something intrinsic. So what has happened? I have created a free way. This love is something very, very different. Other loves, as I told, that it is full of clash. And another thing, that is full of fear. In the world, as everything is dependent on things external, so what happens? Till I get the object of my love, whether it is wealth, whether it is relation, whether it is position in life, I am concerned, I am anxious, I may not get it. And once I get it, again I am anxious, I may lose it. Whether it is wealth, whether it is relation, whether it is position in life. But this is the thing, once you get, there is no question of losing. As very nicely Mirabai in one of his songs has mentioned. What this Rama Ratan, how it is? Kharche nahi koi, chor na leve, dina dina varat savaya. It never gets expended. It's such a wealth. It never gets expended. The more you practice, the more the groove gets deepened, the more the love. There is no question of getting expended. Chorna leve. No one can take it away from you, as it is intrinsic. And dina dina varat savayo. The more you practice, the more the groove gets deepened, the more is the love. There is no question of getting expended. It's such a wealth. So just see, it is qualitatively so different from all other love. And you have created a freeway in your mind. All other loves were as if traveling through the traffic. Now my love for God in no way hinders the other's love for God. So just like going through the freeway, there is no junction. Now once you have created a freeway, will you ever go through the traffic road? No. Why? The natural tendency will be to go through the freeway. And that's what happens. The moment you develop this love for God, the other love starts falling off. Why should I go through all those concerns and tensions and traffic? It is such a soothing. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to say, the love of God is just like the moonlit night. This is just like the soothing light of the moon in a full moonlit night. It is pleasant. It has no as such friction. So this type of love, once you develop, the other thing starts falling off. And when this love develops, with this love when you pray, the more your prayer becomes intense. This alone can at last take you to that final spiritual realization. What's the spiritual realization? Whatever may be your practice, what is the ultimate spiritual realization is? In our scriptures, they speak of samadhi. What is samadhi? Where they say that there is, in samadhi, the term they use is triputi bheda. These terms are very old Sanskrit. So naturally we think, it's something complicated, but it's very simple. It is the collapsing of the triad. We all will understand what happens. Now when I am meditating at present, I know there are three things. Even though I have been successful in getting rid of all the distractions, my mind is fully focused, but still I am aware of three things. I am the meditator, there is an object of meditation, and meditation is the process by which the meditator and the object of meditation is connected. Dhyana, dhyata, dheya. So these three I am constantly aware of. Now very interesting thing, when my meditation becomes more and more intense, what happens? You will find when my mind gets focused, all the distractions falls off, the mind just remains on the object of meditation. When I am watching a match in the TV, someone calls me, I don't hear. What has happened? The sound has entered my ears, but as my mind is fully focused on the game, the sound couldn't connect with the mind because the mind is fully focused on the game. The same thing happens with this focus. With the love, your prayer becomes intense. And as it becomes intense, all the distractions falls off. So you start forgetting everything else. The object of meditation alone is in your mind. But the last thing to fall off, however my mind is concentrated, one thing is always there, the ego, that I am meditating. Even in the deep focus it is there. But when the intensity really increases, a time comes when the ego falls off. And then I become one with the object of meditation. That's what's known as triputi bheda. You become one with the object of meditation, whatever it may be. How it has happened? By the falling off of the ego. Now, ego is the cause of bondage. The moment you go beyond the ego, you are taken to an altered state of consciousness. For the first time, you are aware you are apart from the ego. We cannot explain it just by words. It is only through that intense meditation, when we become one with the object of meditation, for the first time we realize that this ego, which I thought to be my existence, there is a much higher existence which is beyond the ego. And that has been nomenclature by the various traditions, in various religions, in various names. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that the same water, someone calls pani, someone calls water, someone calls jal, whatever the nomenclature may be, but it is the same water. So once you go beyond the ego, you go to that same realization. That's why Sri Ramakrishna in the Gospel, in some other place, how nicely he has said that all these divine forms are nothing but a hole in the wall of ego. That I am as if chiseling in the wall of ego. At the beginning it is just a mere imagination, visualization. It is just like chiseling, but yet to create the whole. But once I create the whole and peep through it, as Sri Ramakrishna says, that there is a wall, I don't know what is beyond the wall, I chisel it, create a hole, peep through the hole and see infinite expanse. So one who is chiseling the form of Krishna in his mind, at last creates a whole. The framework becomes the form of Krishna. And when that whole has been created, he sees through that hole and says, Krishna is infinite. The one who has done in the form of Rama, he says, Rama is God. He is infinite. One who has done in the form of Jesus, he says, Jesus is God, one with God. So as Sri Ramakrishna in his life has created so many holes in the wall of ego, he was a spiritual glutton. He was not satisfied with the practice on a single practice. Once he succeeded in one path, he immediately started practicing another path. And through all the paths, he created so many holes in the wall of ego to peep through it to the same infinite expanse to say, all the paths take you ultimately to the same goal. So as per the doctrines and dogmas are concerned, religions are varied. If you have to find the unity in all the religions, you have to go to the life of the mystics. There they will find all are speaking in the same language. Whether it's a Sufi saint, whether it is a Christian mystic, or whether it is a Vedantin or a yogi, they're all speaking of that unitary experience. All are speaking the same language. You go to the mystics' language. Don't just read the doctrines and dogmas and beliefs. There you will find they're speaking of the same experience. That's why Sri Ramakrishna used to say in the Gospel in some other place, Shekhane shop shealer akra. All the fox howls in the same manner when they reach there. So now you will find the entire gamut of spirituality is nothing but this, to develop love. For developing love, repetition of the name of God. With that you develop love. And then again you continue. Now previously it was with your will you were repeating, and now it has become spontaneous. Without it becoming spontaneous, it cannot be a true meditation. At present, I think meditation is something which speaks of our willpower. My mind is getting distracted. I use my willpower to keep my mind focused. By that way, I can never get true meditation. Unless love develops, you can never develop true meditation. Just have you ever heard that a mother is meditating on the child lest she forgets the child? It never happens. It is because that love makes her think of the child always, whatever she may be doing. So love is the real meditation. So when that love comes, the prayer becomes spontaneous. The prayer which was willful, the repetition which was willful, that becomes spontaneous. That takes you to the ultimate realization. And that's what the entire gamut of spirituality can be spoken of. All the doctrines and dogmas are something by holding on to which we go to that realization. The doctrines and dogmas are secondary. The focus is important. With the focus, a time should come where the ego dissolves, and then it takes us to that realization. All these things are but mere secondary details. So now, with this idea, just you will find that what he is saying, that the entire gamut can be spoken of that. That this, take the name of God, develop love, repeat, and of course, if that scriptures they say that I cannot cross the river by keeping my two legs in two boat. Jaha Ram taha nahi kam. That when I am resorting to the devotional practice, to a great extent I have to cut my connections at the beginning from my worldly attachments. Why? Because at the beginning my worldly attachments are still strong. Till this devotion takes over, it is very strong. So at the beginning, I have to carefully be away from it so that my spiritual practice is in no way disturbed. I can get that one-pointed meditation, ekarati vichikitsa, as in Sanskrit it has been spoken of. So even Buddha says the same thing. Gautam Buddha says that in spiritual practice, be a rhinoceros. That when the rhinoceros chases its prey, it will just run straight. The way you can save yourself, just go to the side. Because of its tremendous body weight, the tremendous the impulse, the force with which it is moving, it suddenly cannot change its direction. It will just go straight. So Buddha is saying that in spiritual life, you have to be just like a rhinoceros. No deviation. Straight. Go and hit the mark. So that's the thing which has been spoken of here. So this few lines again let us read, which you will find speaks of the entire gamut of our spiritual journey. That one must always chant the name and glories of God and pray to Him. An old metal pot must be scrubbed every day. What is the use of cleaning it only once? Further, one must practice discrimination and renunciation. One must be conscious of the unreality of the world. So now this line, this old metal pot must be scrubbed every day. Have we to shall we go on scrubbing it throughout our eternity? No. Here he says until you reach the goal. This is what he's saying, till he reaches the goal. Why? Because in some other context we will find that once Sri Ramakrishna's Guru Totapuri told Sri Ramakrishna the same thing, that you have to scrub the metal pot every day, otherwise it will just, a coating will develop over it. And then Sri Ramakrishna immediately responded, retorted back, what if the metal gets transformed into gold? So till it gets converted into gold, you have to scrub it every day. As long as it is brass and copper, you have to scrub it every day. Once it gets transformed into gold, there is no need of scrubbing. It returns, it shines. So what is this transforming into gold means? The mind has already developed that love. That will has got converted into this love. Then there is no need for willful repetition. It happens automatically. It becomes spontaneous. So that's the thing which Sri Ramakrishna is indicating. Brahmo, is it good to renounce the world? Master, not for all. Those who have not yet come to the end of their enjoyments should not renounce the world. Can one get drunk on 2 annas worth of wine? So, this is the example which Sri Ramakrishna gives, that you will find that in a party when all are socializing and even having some drink, just a little 1 or 2 pegs, they can still socialize. But if they get too much drunk, impossible. So that's the thing Sri Ramakrishna is indicating, that when the tremendous love develops, you get as if like that it intensely intoxicated. Then the world naturally falls off. But don't force it. Let it happen spontaneously. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, the more you go towards the east, the west automatically falls behind. What's the way of going to the east? What's the way of avoiding the west? The more I go towards the east, the west automatically falls behind. I cannot push the west. I just have to go towards the east to avoid the west. So that's the thing Sri Ramakrishna is indicating here, that you need not force the renunciation. You develop the love of God, the renunciation will develop automatically. As Sri Ramakrishna in some other context used to say that, when we have some wound, a scab develops over the wound. If you forcefully remove the scab, the wound gets lacerated. But if you just allow the wound to heal, the scab falls off automatically. So that renunciation is something which happens spontaneously. So that's the thing Sri Ramakrishna is saying, that go on practicing, the renunciation will happen gradually, spontaneously. Brahmo, then should they lead a worldly life? Master, yes, they should try to perform their duties in a detached way. Before you break the jackfruit open, rub your hands with oil so that the sticky milk will not smear them. The maidservant in a rich man's house performs all her duties, but her mind dwells on her home in the country. This is an example of doing duty in a detached way. You should renounce the world only in mind, but a sannyasi should renounce the world both inwardly and outwardly. So this is the example which Sri Ramakrishna gives again and again. That the maid servant living with the master, doing all the work, but her mind is at her home with his child, with his children and the relatives, though he is with the master. So we find the same thing. Even we find the same thing in the present day at this kindergarten school or in the child care center. Very interesting that renunciation doesn't mean physically renouncing. It speaks of a mental attitude. In the kindergarten or in the child care center, you take the child for the first time, the child cries. It cries. Because it is so much attached to the parents. His home is the security zone. And now for the first time he has come out from his comfort zone. He cries. For few days you will find when you leave the child, it cries. After some days, something different happens, opposite. It has now developed friends there in the child care center. Now when the parent in the evening goes to bring him back or her back, now the child cries. He doesn't want to come back from the game. It continues for a few more days. And then a time comes when the child doesn't cry anymore. When you are dropping him, it doesn't cry. When you are bringing him back, it doesn't cry. What has happened? It has actually developed detachment. What's the detachment? Now the idea has registered in the child's mind that this child care center is a temporary place. It is not something where I stay permanently. My house is my own place, permanent place. Every day morning, father will drop me. In the evening, he will bring me back. But as it is a temporary place, does the child sit in the corner of the child care throughout the day waiting? When my father will come, I will go. As it is a temporary place, I need not play with others. No. It is playing, it is having all sorts of merriment, it is very happy. But as the idea of this temporary and permanent has become something ingrained in his mind, so now there is no suffering. He is totally involved in the child care center, playing with the other children, interacting with them, but there is no suffering. In the morning when the father drops, he is not sad. When he's taken again in the evening, he's taken back to home, he's not sad. So this world is also like the child care center. We somehow never get educated like that small child. That this is a temporary place. We are not going to stay here permanently. That we are born, we will die. But if we had that idea of transience, it doesn't mean that we have to leave everything and just sit in a corner thinking that when the death comes, till then I wait, I have nothing to do with life. No. I can, just like the small child, you can be playing, making merry, but at the same time, that idea of detachment is in their mind. That this is not a permanent place. So I have came at a certain point of time, I will have to leave this place at a certain point of time. And that's what detachment which Sri Ramakrishna is speaking of. In the previous lines, he spoke of detachment. Immediately we might get an idea, I have to leave everything. No. It is a mental attitude. It is a total change of mental paradigm. That once I know the transitoriness of the life, the detachment becomes something which is within. That it has nothing to do with my physical acts. And that's what Sri Ramakrishna is indicating. The Brahma, what is the meaning of the end of enjoyments? Master, I mean the enjoyment of woman and gold. It is risky to put a typhoid patient in a room where pitchers of water and jugs of pickled tamarind are kept. Most people don't feel any longing for God unless they have once passed through the experience of wealth, name, fame, creature comforts and the like. That is to say, unless they have seen through these enjoyments. So we will today keep this distraction bit short. I will just try to understand. We'll try to understand this. These words are so simple, but you will find it speaks a lot. That's the beauty of the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. With the simple words, he is speaking of a profound truth. Nowhere Sri Ramakrishna's word is incongruous. It's very, very rational. That we all have to go through this experience at last to come out of it. At the very beginning, I cannot develop detachment. We have to go through it. Why? So in Vedanta, these ideas are linked with all Vedantic ideas. Sri Ramakrishna was a wonderful person. The profound Vedantic ideas he could speak in such simple words. In Vedanta they say that what's the cause of embodiment, that why I am in the body. The Vedanta they say that I am the Atman, I am the conscious principle. Then how I get attached to this body? They say this conscious principle, when it gets associated with the body-mind complex, it gets as if reflected on it. And now I take the reflection to be real. Seeing the consciousness reflected in the body-mind complex, I take the reflection to be the real, and that's the cause of our ignorance. There's a nice story of Narcissus. Narcissus, we all know the word narcissistic. This is a narcissistic attitude. In psychology, this narcissist, this term is very, very common. That those who are extremely self-possessed, only thinking of themselves. The entire world just revolves around him and him alone, or her alone. Never gives importance to anyone. So these extremely self-possessed persons are narcissistic. So from where this word came? From a Greek legendary character Narcissus. This Narcissus was a prince. He was extremely handsome. And he was so possessed by his own beauty, he would not care for anything. He would not take care of responsibilities as a prince. He would not engage in any other relationships. He was extremely proud of his own beauty and was very possessed by it. So throughout the day, whenever he used to get time, he will go to the backyard of his palace, and there was a huge reservoir. And he will just sit by the side of the reservoir. The reservoir had a very clean water, calm, clean water. So it will sit on the bank of the reservoir and see his own reflection. And he used to get possessed by it. He used to get possessed, obsessed by his own beauty. And one day it so happened, he thought that reflection to be real. And he fell in his love with his own reflection. And he wanted to embrace his own reflection. And in his attempt to embrace the reflection, he jumped into the reservoir, drowned and died. So that's the Greek character Narcissus, from which the word narcissistic has come. So in spiritual sense, we are all narcissistic. That we are the Atman, seeing the reflection of the splendor of our consciousness in our body-mind complex, we got obsessed by the reflection. And that's the cause of our embodiment. How the biological evolution has happened, Vedanta doesn't deny that. It says a very interesting thing, that how it has happened. See that after all, the self is constantly echoing from within. This body-mind complex is a flow, but something within is constantly echoing. What is echoing? You are eternal. You have no wants. You are ever fulfilled. So it is just an echo. So sometimes when I'm standing in front of the mountain, I shout my name. My name is echoed back. I think from the mountain someone is calling me. If I'm ignorant, I will think that. The same thing is happening. The self is constantly shouting, I'm eternal. I'm ever fulfilled. Now, the echo comes from the body-mind complex. And now this body-mind complex is constantly chasing for eternity and fulfillment, which is echoed from within. Even a small bacteria, if you give some nutrient, it is drawn towards it. If you give some toxin, it runs away from it. Why? Because someone within is saying you're eternal. Now, to realize that eternity, when nutrient is given, oh, I can be eternal if I nourish this body-mind complex. I cannot realize the eternity if the toxin kills me. So anything which is not favorable for my psychophysical existence, I run away from it. If anything is favorable, I get attached to it. All our attachments and all our hatred, fear, develops from this basic idea. And this is the cause of evolution. Now a small bacteria, what it is doing? To realize that echo, that eternity which is echoing from within. What it does? It finds the external situation is not such which can enable it to realize that eternity. So what it does? It starts conglomerating. Few more cells come, they conglomerate. There's a division of labor. We have to fight against the nature. We have to equip ourselves much better so that we can enjoy eternity in this life. And that's the reason for the entire biological evolution. It has started because of that ignorance. So this all enjoyment speaks of trying to enjoy the eternity in this physical form. See, as a human being, how complex this in trillions of cells have conglomerated, and this is a wonderful division of labor. Someone is circulating the bloods, someone is digesting the food, assimilation, the brain is there to create this wonderful nervous network. Everything together, we are so well equipped. Why? Still to fight against the nature, to enjoy the eternity through this body-mind complex, which is never possible because this body-mind complex is a flow. But this entire biological evolution has happened due to that ignorance. As a human being, we have the capacity to realize that why I am chasing after that. I am already that eternal. I am already fulfilled. There is no need for any fulfillment. As a self, I am always fulfilled. I am eternal. Because of this chase happened because of this ignorance. And that because of that ignorance, what is the ignorance? That I have to attain something. And now I know I am already that. As I was forgetful about that, I got associated with something which is a flow and I was chasing for it. Now you will understand it is only through this bhoga. At last, this real, when it comes, then the tyaga comes. I have to read the entire book at last to get that knowledge. So this through bhoga, at last that realization comes. As a human being, we have that uniqueness to realize, to go beyond that ignorance. That it happened because of my wrong association, erroneous association with the body-mind complex. The thing which I am chasing for, I am already that. And then the renunciation comes. And that's what is being spoken of. So in Vedanta, the biological evolution is not denied. We don't believe in design theory. We do believe in evolution. But at the same time, like an evolution, like a biologist, we don't believe that evolution is like a straight line, will go on eternally. No, it's a circle. It reaches the apex where I realize that my attempt to attain eternity through the body-mind complex is futile. I'm already that. And then I again go back to the source. It is a circle. And that's been spoken of by Sri Ramakrishna in these few words. I mean the enjoyment of woman and gold. It is risky to put, that's the previous one. Yes, they should try to perform their duties in a detached way. Before you break the jackfruit open, rub your hands with oil so that the sticky milk will not smear them. The maidservant in a rich man's house perform all her duties, but her mind, actually this I have read it. I mean the enjoyment of woman and gold. It is risky to put a typhoid patient in a room where pitchers of water and jugs of pickled tamarind are kept. Most people don't feel any longing for God unless they have once passed through the experience of wealth, name, fame, creature comforts and the like. That is to say, unless they have seen through these enjoyments. That's the circle which Sri Ramakrishna is speaking through. We have to go through them to at last develop that renunciation. So you find this simple, in this word speaks of the profound Vedantic truths. Very nicely, in simple words, he is delivering it to us. So with this, we stop our discussion today. I will continue with the succeeding portion of this chapter again in the next class. Thank you all. Namaskar.